Hi, welcome back to the Maximize Your Influence channel. My name is Kurt Mortensen. I just finished up a podcast at MaximizeYourInfluence.com on why introverts are more persuasive than extroverts. It's true, it's real. Check it out at MaximizeYourInfluence.com. One of the issues was the ability to listen. Extroverts can push a little bit more. They kind of jump to conclusions a little more. I'm stereotyping here. And the introverts tend to consult more. And that's an issue. That's one of the biggest issues. Great persuaders, they listen. They're better listeners. But they listen with their ears, their eyes, their heart. That's part of it. And it's one of those big things. It's a challenge that everyone thinks they're good at listening. They can hear. This is one that we can all work on. Because if you can truly listen, they'll tell you everything you need to know to persuade them. But you're so stuck on you and your brain. And let's talk a little bit about Phubbing and Persuasion, because it's along the same lines. On this channel, what I do is supersize or enhance something I talked about in the podcast, and Phubbing is an interesting term, a brand new term, which means you're looking at your cell phone or your computer screen or answering emails while someone's trying to talk to you, and that does not help the listening process. It sounds like it's good time management, multitasking, but in the long run, it's really going to hurt your ability to persuade. This is one of those fundamental skills of persuasion, influence, sales, negotiation that we tend to forget about, that we're not doing very well. In sports, how often do you practice the fundamentals? Every day. And the same is true for persuasion and influence. You have to practice this. You got to get better. You got to own up. It's one of the biggest self-perception bias out there, where people think they're better listeners than they actually are. And we stink. And let's talk about why we stink and why we're phubbing and how we become better persuaders. A fact here that's really important and why we stink at listening is we didn't have any training. That's a big factor. We think we're better than we actually are. Another factor. And our darn brain. We're listening. We're trying hard, and this great idea comes to our mind. We gotta get it out. We gotta tell them before it's too late. So we interrupt and we don't listen very well. That's the big challenge. And so take a look at this number. 2.7 is the number. Great persuaders ask 2.7, I want to say 3 times more questions than the average persuader. That's how you get past phubbing, is if you can formulate your questions, write them out ahead of time, be that expert, be that consultant, that changes the game for everyone. I mean, the doctor-patient, think about how the patient accepts as the doctor's going to answer all their questions to find out what's going on. Or even a lawyer. I mean, imagine going into a lawyer's office, like, oh yeah, I've heard about you, I know what we can do, I can win you money, let's go. Well, wait, let's talk. No, I don't need to talk. I know everything I need to know. You'd be offended. And the same thing's true in persuasion. People like to be asked questions by an expert that's going to lead them down the path to make the right decision. When they trust you as the expert, they want those questions. They want you to know that you can feel what they feel, that you know what they need and want. That's a key factor. So that's number 1. Be the expert. Ask the questions. Think them through ahead of time. Have them written down on a pad of paper. And that's the other secret. If you're jumping around with your thoughts, bring in a pad of paper. That's the secret for me. It makes a huge difference, where on the left you just take notes, on the right when you have an idea you write it down, and your brain just kind of relieves a little bit and you move on. It could be that simple. So you're the expert. Don't act like an expert in the arrogant way, but when you're the expert, there's very little persuasion resistance. Number 2, it gives you control. Questions control the conversation. Questions always get answered, even if it's mentally. Ask the question, especially if you feel like they're rambling, you've lost control. Come in with a question. Come in with a question. It controls the conversation. It guides the conversation. It's a big factor in not only guiding the conversation, but stopping the phubbing. You're getting more eye contact. You're going through your questions, and it's very difficult, or more difficult, to be distracted by other things. The next one is it stops you from vomiting on people. Yeah, I always say that, but it's what you do, is you vomit. Ask the questions. The movie Shrek, you peel the onion back. There's layers. You got to dig deeper. And when you can really formulate the questions, you become a better listener, and follow up that question with another question. You're digging deep, peeling that onion back, finding out what the real issue is. Otherwise, you're throwing persuasion darts, hoping one of your features or benefits is going to stick without really finding out what they're going to that they need. So work on that. It's a big piece of the persuasion pie. The next one is it engages your audience. It keeps their attention. If someone's indifferent, doesn't care, ask them a question, you watch, they'll get re-engaged. There's something about a question, our schooling days, where it just gets us, it grabs our attention, it engages, it keeps us engaged and involved. It's a big piece. That's another one you need to be doing to not only prevent phubbing, but become a better listener and a persuader. The next one is it reduces resistance. You can use it to create dissonance. If you haven't studied cognitive dissonance, you got to get my free book, Maximize Your Influence, at MaximizeYourInfluence.com. Pick up a little shipping and handling. But dissonance helps people persuade themselves. Because if you tell them what to do, they're going to resist you. But if you ask the right questions, lead them down the path where they realize that they made a mistake, stretch the rubber band or create that dissonance, as I call it, then people are easier to persuade. And that's done through questions, formulated questions to lead people down the path where you want them to go. You can tell them what to do. Resistance. Questions, a little dissonance, a little discomfort. They realize they need to change. Boom, you've got the solution that they need. Powerful thing that you need to really understand. So the key, open-ended questions. Get them talking, get them thinking, answering the question with the question, formulating those questions. You're like, well, Kurt, how do I do that? Well, let me give you a few ways to get started to think through some of these questions. Here's a great template for you. When you're using open-ended questions, when did you start? Where did you find? What do you think about? Have you ever thought about? How do you feel about? Just great open-ended questions. Fill in the blanks there. When you say things like, hey, tell me what's the perfect solution look like to you? Isn't that a great question? And start digging, peeling that onion back, finding out what people need and want. That's the key. So do these things. Become a better persuader. Quit phubbing. Become a better listener. Own up to it. You've got to work on this, because when you can listen and ask the right questions, they'll tell you everything you need to know to persuade them, and then you'll be able to persuade with power.